China will host a large military parade to commemorate the end of World War II, but Taiwanese officials are barred from attending. Taiwan's cabinet proposes more financial relief as local businesses struggle with U.S. tariffs.
我们希望可以争取把232的这个调查内容，特别是对于半导体这一个调查，可以纳入对等关税的这个谈判一并去处理。
Typhoon Podul has left Taiwan, but its trail of damage has set back recovery efforts in southern areas still reeling from other recent storms. Plus, on the eve of the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II, advocates are calling for greater recognition of Japan's comfort women in Taiwan. A warm welcome to TaiwanPlus News. I'm Leslie Liao. The office that manages relations with China says that Taiwanese government officials will not be allowed to attend a Chinese military parade commemorating the end of World War II. Our reporter Cadence Quaranta joins us now from the Mainland Affairs Council. Cadence, what has the government said?
That's right. So Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council said today that it's forbidding local and national officials from attending a big military parade on September 3rd in China, marking the 80th anniversary of what China says is its victory over Japanese forces in World War II. The MAC is also forbidding anyone that's previously worked in key fields like intelligence from attending the anniversary. And it says it will give out punishments to those who don't comply. This is what they said today.
承认国防外交大陆事务或与国家安全相关的政务副首长以上人员或少将以上人员或情报机关首长等指标性人员，不得参与中共93阅兵及其官方主导之相关活动。如有违反，主管机关将依据《两岸条例》第9条之3例以及第91条的规定， 处以罚锾、停止或剥夺退休、给予及追缴勋奖章。
So World War II is a touchy subject across the strait. At the time, the Chinese government was the Republic of China, which was part of the U.S. and British-led alliance. And the ROC later fled to Taiwan, while on the mainland, the PRC was established. So today, leaders in Taiwan and at the Mainland Affairs Council are saying that China's distorting the facts and that it was Chinese nationalist forces, not communist forces, that bore the brunt of the war in Japan or against Japanese forces in China, and then they also said that the PRC didn't even exist at the time. So they're disputing China's claims. The MAC also says that China's using this narrative to reinforce its One China principle and to reassert its claims over Taiwan. And it says that they're barring government officials from attending the event to prevent China from taking advantage of this anniversary to advance its United Front tactics to influence Taiwan.
All right, thank you for that, Cadence. That was Cadence Quaranta reporting live from Taiwan's Mainland Affairs Council. A Taipei court has upheld the sentences for 3 ex-military officers convicted of selling electronic warfare secrets to China. One other officer's prison time was slightly reduced. The 4 admitted to transferring the classified information between 2022 and 2024 in return for up to $22,000 US. They each received initial sentences of between 5 and 7 years. All 4 appealed, but only one, a former military police staff sergeant at the presidential office, had their sentence reduced by a month. A further appeal is still possible. Taiwan is pushing through relief measures in response to Washington's 20% levy on most of the country's exports. The government has repeatedly said the current rate is only temporary as trade negotiations continue, but businesses here are already feeling the strain. Temporary. That's how Taiwan has described U.S. President Donald Trump's tariffs on Taiwan. Most of the country's goods have been slapped with a reciprocal 20% duty. That 20% goes on top of any existing tariffs that various businesses already pay. The government has emphasized that negotiations are still underway and there's room for the levy to be lowered, but there's still no time frame for when the negotiations will be completed. One of Taiwan's most valuable exports to the U.S. is semiconductors, and Trump may slap even heftier tariffs on chips under Section 232. That statute authorizes the president to place import taxes on specific goods that impact national security after an investigation. Taiwan's negotiators say they want to reconcile both Taiwan's reciprocal and Section 232 tariffs at the same time.
目前我们还没有完全取得台美最后的这个共识，最主要的原因，也就是我们希望可以争取把232的这个调查内容，特别是对于半导体这一个调查，可以纳入对等关税的这个谈判一并去处理。
Trump's tariffs kicked in last week, and local businesses are already feeling their effects. The cabinet says that it's going to propose adding $1.5 billion in additional relief funding to a special budget.
那这一次提高的450亿元，主要会用在强化电力系统，还有加强弱势的一个照顾与关怀。第三的话就是发放现金的一个作业。 那因应现在的局势快速的一个相关变化，会预留200亿元，当作未来支持产业还有扩大补助的一个范畴。
Any cabinet spending proposal requires legislative approval. The opposition had revised the special budget before, modifying it from what the cabinet initially proposed. But that was before Trump's tariffs kicked in. Now that the tariffs are here and in effect, there's added urgency to make sure the government gets money to where it's needed most. Howard Zhang and Leslie Liao for TaiwanPlus. U.S. authorities have reportedly hidden location trackers in shipments of export-controlled chips to detect illegal smuggling to China. A Reuters report says trackers have been concealed in shipments from Dell and Supermicro containing advanced chips from NVIDIA and AMD. It says they're being used to build cases against people and firms skirting U.S. export controls that are meant to keep advanced AI tech out of China. NVIDIA says it does not install secret trackers in its products, while Dell said it was not aware of U.S. government initiatives to embed them into its shipments. Supermicro said it does not disclose its security practices. AMD did not respond to a request for comment. For more on how this could impact U.S.-China AI competition, reporter Chris Gorin spoke with Taylor Rajic of the Strategic Technologies Program at the Center for Strategic and International Studies.
Taylor, I want to start by getting your reaction to this Reuters report that the U.S. is embedding tracking devices in shipments of export-controlled chips in order to prevent smuggling or diversion into China. Do you consider this to be an escalation in terms of enforcing export controls?
Definitely. I think it's moved to a more covert surveillance side of this. It's also come at a time where obviously the NVIDIA announcement in the last few days has also escalated this as well. I think that the tech competition between China and particularly in terms of export controls and semiconductors has reached a new level that it wasn't at before. And it's definitely an escalation of enforcement of export controls as well.
Does embedding these tracking devices work well? Do you consider it to be an effective strategy to prevent these chips from getting into China?
I think so. I definitely think it's not the perfect strategy, but it's definitely a step in the right direction in enforcing these export controls. The idea of it has been around for a while. The Chip Security Act that was introduced a few months ago definitely spoke about location tracking of, these specific chips to kind of really get to the point of chip smuggling and the issue of it that clearly are falling through the gaps with the existing export control regime that's in place.
This news comes as NVIDIA is trying to clinch a deal on selling its H20 chip in China, even offering to pay 15% of its China sales to the US government. China, meanwhile, is telling its companies not to buy NVIDIA and to buy Chinese instead, saying that American chips have backdoors and pose a national security risk. How do you think this news moves the needle on the H20 debate?
It's a really interesting point for China now, and it either has the decision to continue to use the H20 chips and rely on US tech, which may be at a more advanced level, or if they sort of continue this alternate route of using what might be good enough but not better with the sort of national security concerns that they have. And I think that this is an interesting crossroads for them, and I think that the actions that they take after this will be pretty indicative of how they're going to continue down this route. Personally, I think that they will continue to buy the H20 chips. It was specifically designed for the Chinese market, so it meets their needs.
That was Taylor Rajek from CSIS. Taiwanese electronics manufacturer Foxconn is riding high on the AI boom, reporting a 27% rise in quarterly profits. The firm, also known as Honghai Technology Group, is most well known for making Apple's iPhone, but is also a major supplier of AI servers. It says it expects year-on-year growth in AI server revenue to be more than 170% in its third quarter. However, tariff uncertainty could affect the company's end-of-year prospects as it has major operations in China. The company is also bolstering its North American operations with new AI server factories in Texas and Mexico. Youth suicide is back on the rise after a drop-off during the COVID pandemic. But concerned lawmakers and experts say there are steps worth considering to stem a deadly tide. John Van Trieste has more.
There is alarm here at the legislature over a recent rise in the number of youth suicides. Today, lawmakers and academics are gathered inside to discuss what's happening and what to do about it. Suicide is now the second leading cause of death among 15 to 24-year-olds. And the number of children under 15 dying of suicide has been going up too, breaking 13,000 in 2023. From family pressure to tensions with peers and teachers at school to online bullying and even copycat suicides after a famous person ends their life, there are many reasons cited by people gathered here. Those with clinical experience say help at school can be limited, and it's often a matter of parents or teachers raising the alarm before professionals get involved.
In Taiwan, we do have the school have a counselor, but that counselor is mainly like educator, so it's not really psychologist. But main thing is, I think the school, the teacher, and the parent must be sensitive to knowing that their kids, their student, may suffer from some suicidal ideation, may have some mental issue. So they need to report, they need to bring them or contact us so we can help.
Some of the academics here have been studying suicide trends in Taiwan going back to the 1970s. And they say that while many aspects of society have changed, many of the same pressures remain. That doesn't mean they think the issue can't be tackled, though. They want steps like screening for early detection and intervention, and the introduction of mental health literacy in schools across the country. The internet and the dark content and bullying found on it is one challenge that's relatively new. But the researchers here think the internet can also be a tool for preventing suicide.
传统有所谓的生命线，那是靠打电话。但是现在有新兴的这个服务呢，就是使用像 LINE 一样这样的文字协谈。那台湾有2个生命线，有一个小规模这个服务。那相对呢，其他国家其实这个服务呢已经更为普遍了。那所以需要更多资源的这个挹注、经验的这个累积，然后有好的这个品质。那这个年轻世代呢习惯这个网络界面的这个沟通的话呢，它也有多元的这个求助管道。
And with sitting lawmakers present, there are hopes that these new measures will get government backing before an already tragic situation gets worse. These suggestions are what those gathered inside here today see as the best way to stop a deadly trend spreading among Taiwan's next generation. John Su and John Van Trieste in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
If you're in Taiwan and having thoughts about suicide, call Lifeline Taiwan International at 1995. Coming up after the break, 80 years ago today, on the last day of World War II, Japan's emperor was about to make a decision that had changed the future of Taiwan.
Game on Taiwan, where we bring you not just the highlights on the field, but also the voices and stories behind the scenes.
其实恰哥是很懂得会去运用这些东西，他知道看哪些资料。 去看选手表现怎么样，然后看数据上有没有什么优势弱势的东西，再去提醒他们。那所以才会有恰哥拿的什么饮料单跟选手讨论这样的事情。那甚至有些人会说啊，都什么年代了，人家都外国都拿平板上太空，你们还在纸本列印。可是那个纸本上面恰哥的笔记是写到满到还贴满这样的东西，那个可能真的不是说平板可以取代的啦。大家都很关心台韩之战，但是子鹏是跟我2个人在旁边看那个多米尼加，就是等于说下一场我们对手的比赛，然后去看一个打者还要注意什么事情。
A salute to every sports hero working hard, whether under the spotlight or behind the curtain. Game on, Taiwan.
Welcome back. You're watching TaiwanPlus News. Parts of southern Taiwan are still without power or telecommunication services after being pummeled by Typhoon Podul and 2 storms in July. Nearly 6,000 households remain cut off from the grid as of Thursday morning. The 3 back-to-back storms have damaged over 20,000 telecom sites for landlines and mobile services, with 10% of them needing repairs. The National Communications Commission expects to fully restore service by next Friday. Meanwhile, the agency is working with service providers to offer roaming services in the affected areas. While Typhoon Podul has moved away from Taiwan's west coast, it's left wreckage in areas already reeling from 2 recent storms. Irene Lin reports.
Blustery winds whip down the roads of Pingtung in southeastern Taiwan, sending rooftops flying and cutting off electricity. Podul, the 3rd typhoon to hit Taiwan this season, has left a trail of damage in this corner of the country. While the tropical southeast is used to big storms like this one, people here say they're tired of the bad weather repeatedly interrupting their daily lives.
因为我们是做生意啦，怕东西会坏掉啊。这边是算是灾区啊，每一次的那个台风一过境，就是交通就瘫了。
因为我好久以前遇到这个台风的时候，有的时候会停电，然后我自己自备发电机。
After making landfall on Wednesday morning, Typhoon Podul dropped about 300 millimeters of rain across the eastern counties of Hualien, Taidong, and Pingtung. Strong wind and rain knocked many of the country's remaining pomelos and custard apples off their branches, only weeks before the optimal harvest period.
像现在这样的话，几乎是都没有被收成的。
不仅是即将成熟的是落果啊。 我们在开花的部分也是全部都打掉了。
As Typhoon Podul passed through the region later in the afternoon, it also set back recovery efforts in Dinshan village in the southern county of Tainan, which had been hard hit by the 2 storms in July, with high winds blowing off temporary roofs.
政府有讲要来要来种梅河啊，梅河来牛10几届啊，来留10几工啊。
It's been a turbulent typhoon season for these residents. With more storms expected, there is mounting uncertainty over when life will finally get back to normal. Justin Wu and Irene Lin for TaiwanPlus.
The landmark trial for Hong Kong's pro-democracy media tycoon Jimmy Lai is in limbo as heavy storms force delays. Charged of colluding with foreign forces under Beijing's controversial national security law, Lai faces life in prison if convicted. The 77-year-old has been detained since December 2020, with some Western nations and rights groups calling for his release. U.S. President Donald Trump has vowed to free Lai, a stance the White House still maintains. The trial's restart date is unclear as Typhoon Podul puts the city in standstill. On the final day of World War II, Japan's emperor made a choice that still shapes Taiwan today. His surrender set off the Cold War, hastened the end of colonialism in Asia, and paved the way for the Taiwan we know now. Bryn Thomas reports from Tokyo.
Years ago, on August 14, 1945, in the palace behind me, Japan's Emperor Hirohito was about to make a decision that would impact the lives of people in Taiwan, then a colony of Japan. Just days earlier, on August 6th, the United States had dropped an atomic bomb on Hiroshima. On August 8th, the Soviet Union had declared war on Japan, and on August 9th, the United States dropped another atomic bomb on Nagasaki.
Let there be no mistake. We shall completely destroy Japan's power to make war. If they do not now accept our terms, they may expect a rain of ruin from the air, the like of which has never been seen on this earth.
With pressure mounting, the emperor chose to surrender. That decision changed the fate of one of its colonies, one that held an important status in Japan's empire-building ambitions, Taiwan.
Taiwan plays a role from the early years of the Japanese Empire in 1895. It's going to be first a showcase for the Japanese civilizing experiment. They're going to take this backwater, this kind of Chinese backwater, and they're going to model it and make it like modern Japan.
By the end of World War II, Taiwan had been a Japanese colony for half a century, a period of both considerable development and oppression and violence. Many Taiwanese were serving in the Japanese military when the emperor surrendered.
More than 200,000 Taiwanese were mobilized to work and serve in the Japanese military over the period of the war. Records show that a good number of Taiwanese, and many of them were well-educated Taiwanese, served as interpreters in southern China.
The war ended Japanese rule in Taiwan, but not the violence. The subsequent Chinese Civil War saw the Republic of China, or ROC, lose control of mainland China before retreating to Taiwan. Its rule began with a brief period of chaotic violence, then settled into decades of quiet oppression.
日本时代你艰苦，日本人也有配置啊米互你。迄阵哦，讲好了伊佫无头无早，有钱嘛无得食米。
The fall of Japan's empire started a new world order, ushering in the end of colonialism in Asia and leading to the Cold War. It also shaped Taiwan's ongoing political landscape, but it came at a great cost in lives. Taiwan lost around 40,000 people in World War II, mostly conscripts and bombing victims. Across Asia, the war claimed an estimated 20 to 30 million lives, with the heaviest losses in China, where up to 20 million died from combat, massacres, famine, and disease. For its part, Japan lost 2.5 to 3.1 million people, including more than 400,000 civilians, with 90,000 dying in the March 1945 firebombing of Tokyo alone.
Captured Japanese films show the Emperor Hirohito surveying the ruins of his capital on the eve of surrender. Wherever he looks, there's nothing but desolation, heralding the end of Japan's opium dream of world conquest.
Although the imperial palace made it through the war largely unscathed, Emperor Hirohito had seen the ruins of Tokyo nearby here and would have carried that memory with him as he made his way to his bunker to record his surrender speech. It aired the next day on August 15, 1945. Japan would formally surrender on September 2nd, and the next month it would lose control of Taiwan. Ryan Wu, Jeffrey Chen, and Bryn Thomas in Tokyo for TaiwanPlus.
On a day that people around the world are coming together to remember women who were forced into sex slavery during World War II, advocates in Taiwan are calling for better recognition of the country's comfort women under Japanese rule. Tiffany Wong reports.
Here at the Amma Museum in Taipei, a moment of silence for the country's comfort women, those who were forced into sex slavery by Japan during World War II. August 14th marks the International Memorial Day for Comfort Women, and it's also the 80th year since the end of World War II. Taiwan had a complicated role in that conflict, fighting as a colony of Japan, and after its surrender, being incorporated into the Republic of China, an allied combatant. An estimated 200 Taiwanese young women and girls were recruited as comfort women during the war. The Taipei Women's Rescue Foundation has collected the narratives of over 50 of them, whom they call ama, or grandmother in Taiwanese Taigi, as their existence wasn't revealed until decades after the war, when they were already seniors. The last of these women died in 2023. Now the foundation is calling for improved education about Taiwan's comfort women for young students.
战争已经落幕了，但是对于受害的阿嬷而言，他们的创伤跟追寻正义的旅程从来没有停止。同时，这件事是台湾历史的一部分。我们认为人民有权利要知道这段历史的真相。
They are also pushing for Taiwan to have a museum dedicated to women's history and women's rights. The National Human Rights Commission says they asked the government in 2022 to provide adequate education on the human rights violations of comfort women. The Ministry of Education did not respond to a request for comment. By sharing these Ama stories, these advocates hope to shed light on the atrocities of World War II and place responsibility on Taiwan's government to promote equal rights to ensure the memory of the country's comfort women is not lost to history. Luffy Li and Tiffany Wong in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwanese speed skater Guo Liang has claimed silver in the men's 200-meter dual time trial event at the 2025 World Games in Chengdu, China. Guo completed the final in just over 17 seconds behind his Spanish competitor Sebastian Guzman Bitar. It is Taiwan's first inline skating medal of this year's Games. The Taiwanese team, competing under the name Chinese Taipei, has so far won 1 gold, 2 silver, and 4 bronze medals. And thank you for watching Taiwan Plus News. Finally, take a look at animals enjoying icy treats to beat the heat at zoos in France and the Czech Republic. I'm Liao. Take care and see you next time.